When a person reaches the level where Allah is truly enough for them, they experience a type of tranquility that cannot be described in words. It is a calmness that comes from the soul, not the mind. It is a peace that remains even when everything around them is unstable. The storms of life do not stop, but the heart is no longer shaken. This inner strength is a gift from Allah to those who rely upon Him completely. It doesn't come from wealth, fame, or people. It comes only from knowing that your affair is with Allah, and that whatever He decrees is always for your benefit, even if you don't understand it at the time. When the world sees chaos, the believer who trusts in Allah sees a greater wisdom unfold. There is a beauty in on the world change not by force but through surrender. When you stop trying to control every outcome and instead place your affairs in the hands of Allah, you will see things begin to unfold in ways you could never have planned. A closed door leads you to a better one. A loss brings you closer to the people and places you truly needed. A painful ending becomes the beginning of a more meaningful journey. These are not coincidences. They are signs that when you make Allah your priority, He makes your path easier in ways you could not imagine. The world doesn't always change on the outside, but your heart changes, and that's what truly transforms your life. Some people spend their entire lives trying to shape the world according to their desires. They chase status, wealth, influence, and the admiration of others. But even when they achieve it, their hearts are not satisfied. Something still feels empty, incomplete. That's because the heart was not created to be fulfilled by the world. It was created to be fulfilled by its Creator. When you shift your focus from dunya to Allah, that emptiness begins to disappear. The same life that once felt stressful, confusing, and heavy becomes lighter. Not because your circumstances necessarily change, but because your heart has changed. The weight is no longer yours to carry alone. Letting Allah be enough means trusting Him with your future. It means not panicking when things don't go your way. It means believing that if something didn't happen, it was for your own good. And if something did happen, it came with lessons and mercy, even if they're not immediately visible. This belief doesn't just comfort you, it gives you purpose. You stop feeling like a victim of life and you start seeing yourself as a servant of the most merciful, walking through a path carefully written just for you. This kind of faith also brings clarity in decision making. When you let Allah be enough, you don't rush into things just to please people or to follow trends. You seek guidance through prayer. You take your time and you move forward only when your heart is at ease. That sense of ease is not always logical, but it's real. It's the kind of ease that comes when you've surrendered your desires and ask for what is best, not just what you want. And Allah in His infinite mercy never ignores that prayer. Your entire life becomes more meaningful when you let Allah be your source of strength. You speak with purpose, you act with sincerity, and you carry yourself with dignity. You're no longer desperate for attention or validation. You don't seek revenge or harbor hatred because you know Allah is just. You don't fear tomorrow because you know Allah is already there. This level of trust doesn't come overnight. It comes from daily reminders, consistent worship, sincere du'as, and a heart that constantly returns to its Lord. When Allah is enough for you, everything else in life falls into place exactly as it's meant to. And that is when the world truly begins to change. Trusting in Allah does not mean life becomes free of challenges. It means your heart begins to see those challenges differently. When a person truly believes that Allah there is enough for them, their perception of hardship changes. What used to feel like punishment begins to feel like a test. What used to feel like rejection begins to look like redirection. This shift in mindset doesn't take away the pain, but it softens it. It doesn't eliminate the struggle, but it gives the struggle meaning. That meaning gives the heart strength, and that strength changes everything. When you rely on Allah, you no longer fear the unknown, because you believe with full certainty that whatever is ahead, Allah is already there, preparing a way for you. So many people carry the weight of anxiety over things they cannot control: jobs, relationships, health, the future. They overthink, lose sleep, and sometimes even lose hope. But the truth is, control was never theirs to begin with. When you let Allah be enough, you surrender that illusion of control and finally find peace. You begin to walk through life with a calm heart, not because you know what's coming next, but because you trust the one who does. You do your part, you make your effort, but then you let go of the outcome. This letting go is not weakness, it is tawakkul. It is knowing that Allah's plan is better than anything you could have imagined for yourself. Every believer experiences moments of darkness, grief, heartbreak, confusion. It's part of the human journey. But the believer who has placed their trust in Allah responds differently. They don't collapse under the weight of their pain. They bend, they cry, but they don't break. They turn their tears into dua, their fears into dhikr, and their setbacks into lessons. This is because their strength doesn't come from themselves. It comes from their connection with Allah. And Allah never wastes the effort, the tears, or the sincerity of His servant. He turns every difficulty into a source of reward, every delay into a blessing, and every heartbreak into a doorway to something greater. Sometimes you will lose things that meant the world to you. A relationship, a dream, a position you worked hard for. In that moment, it may feel like everything is falling apart. But in reality, everything may be falling into place. Allah, in His wisdom, removes what you don't need to make room for. What you do, He delays your plans, so He can give you something better than what you asked for. And He breaks your rot, only to rebuild it with more faith, more depth, and more strength. But these blessings can only be seen when you truly trust Him, when you let Him be enough. Letting Allah be enough is not just about believing exists. It's about living every day with the awareness that He's watching, He's listening, and He is in control. It means when you face a loss, you don't say, why me? But instead, Allah, guide me through this. It means when you're scared, you whisper His name and feel calm. When you're confused, you consult Him through prayer. And when you feel alone, you remember that He is closer to you than your own heartbeat. That awareness becomes a source of courage, comfort, and clarity in all situations. There will always be things in this world that test your faith. People will disappoint you, plans will fall through, life will not always go the way you expected. But when Allah is your anchor, you won't be swept away by the storm. You'll stand firm knowing that the one who controls the storm is also the one holding your heart. That is the unshakable strength of the one who has made Allah enough for them. When Allah becomes enough for you, your relationship with the world undergoes a profound transformation. You begin to view people, possessions, status, and even your own desires differently. Suddenly the craving for attention, validation, and praise from others fades away. You stop exhausting yourself, trying to meet everyone's expectations, and you no longer feel the urge to constantly explain or defend yourself. The noise of the world begins to quiet down because your heart has found its anchor in the one who never changes. This shift in focus does not mean you detach from the world irresponsibly. It means you engage with it through a lens of faith, understanding that everything and everyone around you is temporary, while your connection with Allah is eternal. One of the most draining habits people fall into is seeking approval from others. We try to please family members, friends, co-workers, and even strangers, sometimes at the expense of our own values and peace of mind. But the truth is, no matter how hard you try, you will never be able to satisfy everyone. People are complex. Their opinions are unstable. What pleases them today might upset them tomorrow. Living with the constant pressure of trying to gain their approval is like chasing a mirage. You run yourself dry, but never feel fulfilled. When you let Allah be enough for you, you stop running. You stand firm. You begin to ask yourself, is Allah pleased with me? Instead of, are they pleased with me? And that question changes everything. This shift also helps you purify your intentions. You begin to act for the sake of Allah rather than for praise or recognition. Whether someone acknowledges your good deeds or not, you remain consistent because you know that Allah sees everything. You no longer need applause to feel valuable. You understand that your worth does not come from how people view you, but from how sincere you are in your worship and character. That inner stability is a blessing that cannot be bought. It gives you emotional freedom, the ability to do the right thing even when it's unpopular, to speak the truth even when it's inconvenient, and to walk away from negativity without feeling guilty. Letting Allah be enough also helps you deal with criticism and rejection more gracefully. When your heart is grounded in Allah's love and mercy, the negativity of others does not break you. You become resilient, not arrogant. You remain humble, but not desperate. You take feedback with wisdom, but you don't let toxic voices dictate your self-worth. You learn the art of silence, patience, and dignity, not because you're weak, but because your soul is filled with a strength that doesn't need to shout. That strength comes from knowing that Allah, the most just and most loving, knows the truth of your intentions and efforts. This transformation brings peace in your relationships too. You stop demanding too much from people because you no longer expect them to fill the emotional and spiritual void that only Allah can fill. You start loving others more selflessly, forgiving more easily, and letting go of the need to control every outcome. You realize that your role is to try your best and leave the results to Allah. This mindset removes much of the anxiety, disappointment, and bitterness that comes from putting your hopes in unstable things. When Allah is truly enough for you, your heart begins to shine with contentment. You are no longer shaken by what people give or take away from you, because what you have with Allah is far more secure and permanent. You understand that your provision, your honor, your protection, all come from Him alone. And with that understanding, you walk through the world with a quiet confidence, a gentle strength, and a deep inner peace. This is the gift of truly letting Allah be enough for you. The life stories of the prophets are filled with moments that demonstrate what it truly means to let Allah be enough. They weren't just men with responsibilities and messages to deliver. They were examples of ultimate reliance on the Creator in the most difficult of circumstances. Their unwavering trust in Allah was not theoretical or symbolic. It was tested through real hardship, rejection, and danger. When we study their lives with reflection, we see a pattern. Every time a prophet placed his complete trust in Allah, the seemingly impossible became possible. This is not just history, it is a timeless lesson for anyone who wants to strengthen their faith and find peace amidst their own trials. Take the story of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. When he was thrown into a blazing fire for refusing to worship idols, he didn't panic or beg for mercy from the people. Instead, he uttered the powerful words, Hasbi Allah ilaha illa huwa. Allah is sufficient for me, there is no deity, it is Him. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. Allah commanded the fire to be cool and safe for him. The laws of nature were suspended, and the flames that should have destroyed him became a source of comfort. Why? Because he put his full trust in Allah. He didn't calculate escape routes. He didn't try to change the hearts of the people in that moment. He surrendered, and when he did, Allah took over. This is not just an inspiring story. It is a divine principle. When a person truly relies on Allah, the outcomes are no longer limited by human logic or worldly circumstances. Allah can make a fire cool. He can split the sea. He can bring provision from places you never imagined. The problem is not with Allah's power. It is with our limited trust. We often try to control everything, plan every detail, fix every problem by ourselves. And only when we are exhausted and broken do we finally turn to Allah. But the lesson of the prophets is to turn to Him first, to place our trust in Him, before we even begin to worry about how things will unfold. Another powerful example is the story of Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, when he was trapped between the Red Sea and the army of Pharaoh. His people panicked. They said, we're doomed. But Musa, with calm conviction, said, no, my Lord is with me. He will guide me. In that moment, Allah didn't just make a way. He made a miracle. The sea split into two and they walked through on dry land. Again, it wasn't about the strength of Musa or the strategy of his people. It was about reliance. That kind of trust changes everything. Even in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there are countless examples of this same principle. When he was in the cave with Abu Bakr during the Hijrah, and the enemies were just outside, Abu Bakr was afraid. The Prophet said, do not be sad, indeed Allah is with us. That calm assurance came from a heart completely submitted to Allah, and once again Allah intervened and protected them in a way no one could have predicted. These stories are preserved not for entertainment, but for transformation. They teach us that true peace and power come when the heart says, Allah is enough for me. When you face betrayal, loss, fear, or confusion, remember that the same Allah who split the sea for Musa and cooled the fire for Ibrahim is watching over you. He hasn't changed. What's missing is our level of trust. Let these examples be your reminders that you are never alone, never helpless, and never forgotten, so long as your heart holds firmly to the one who is always in control. Many people go through life placing their trust in those around them, friends, family, co-workers, leaders. While it is natural to form bonds and rely on others to some extent, the problem arises when the heart begins to depend more on creation than on the Creator. People are flawed by nature. They forget, they make mistakes, they become busy, and they are limited in their power and capacity. When we expect too much from people, we inevitably set ourselves up for disappointment, and when they fail to live up to our hopes or let us down, we feel broken and betrayed. That pain is a reminder from Allah that our hearts were never meant to attach so deeply to anyone other than Him. Unlike people, Allah never forgets you. He never turns His back on you. He never becomes too busy for you. He is always aware of your condition, your pain, your worries, your intentions, your efforts. When you raise your hands to Him in dua, He listens even if the entire world turns away. When you seek His help, He responds in the best possible way, even if the answer isn't what you expected. This is why relying on Allah is so much more comforting than relying on people. With Him there are no broken promises, there is no forgetfulness, there is no betrayal. His knowledge is complete, His wisdom is perfect, and His mercy encompasses everything. The more you depend on people, the more control you give them over your emotions. If they are kind, you feel valued. If they are cold, you feel unwanted. If they stay, you feel secure. If they leave, you feel lost. This emotional roller coaster comes from placing too much trust in those who themselves are weak and in need of Allah. But when your heart is anchored in Allah, you are no longer at the mercy of people's behavior. Your self-worth isn't tied to their opinion. Your peace doesn't rise and fall with their presence or absence. You become emotionally independent because your heart is spiritually dependent on the only one who never changes, Allah. When you shift your reliance to Allah, your relationships with people also improve. You begin to give without expecting anything in return. You begin to serve and love others for the sake of Allah, not because of what they can give you back. This purifies your intentions and saves you from the bitterness of unmet expectations. You stop demanding perfection from others because you know that only Allah is perfect. You forgive more easily, you let go of grudges, and you stop chasing validation. You begin to interact with the world from a place of inner strength and contentment. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us through his life how to rely solely on Allah. Despite being surrounded by companions, he never placed his trust in people more than he did in Allah. Whether it was in times of battle, hardship, or joy, he always turned first and foremost to his Lord. That is the example we are meant to follow. To build such a strong relationship with Allah, that even when the world around us is crumbling, our hearts remain steadfast. Life will always come with its share of trials, heartbreaks, and disappointments. But these are not signs that Allah has left us. In fact, they are often signs that He is redirecting us back to Him. He is reminding us to stop relying on those who cannot even guarantee their next breath, and instead turn to the one who controls life, death, and everything in between. When you experience the pain of people letting you down, don't let it harden your heart. Let it lead you closer to Allah. Make Him your first call in trouble, your closest companion in solitude, and your constant refuge in every situation. Because once your heart truly depends on Him, nothing in this world can shake you. In life, one of the most powerful and liberating experiences a person can have is the realization that Allah is truly enough. When the heart reaches a point where it no longer seeks comfort in wealth, status, or the company of others, but instead finds solace in Allah alone, a deep and unshakable peace enters the soul. This peace is not based on external circumstances, but on an internal connection with the one who controls everything. The heart that rests in Allah's plan no longer flutters in anxiety when life becomes uncertain. It no longer panics when doors close or when people walk away. Instead, it remains calm, knowing that nothing can harm it unless Allah wills, and nothing can benefit it unless Allah decrees. When you begin to truly rely on Allah, your worldview changes. You stop viewing success as something you must achieve alone and begin to understand that success comes only through the permission and help of Allah. You start to live with the understanding that your efforts matter, but the outcome is not in your control. This frees you from anxiety, from fear of failure, and from the burden of overthinking. It brings a quiet confidence that as long as you're doing your part and trusting in Allah, everything will work out the way it is meant to. Even if things don't go according to your plan, they are still unfolding according to His perfect wisdom. There is a certain kind of beauty in letting go of worldly expectations and turning instead to the creator of the world. When your heart says, Hasbi Allahi wa ni'mal wakil, Allah is sufficient for me and He is the best disposer of affairs, it is a declaration of freedom. It is a moment where the soul is unshackled from dependence on anything or anyone other than Allah. It means you're no longer overwhelmed by what people say, by what they think, or by what they do, because your focus is on pleasing Allah, the one who never wrongs you, never abandons you, and never tires of hearing your dua. This connection with Allah gives you a strength that no worldly power can match. People around you may see your calmness and wonder how you're staying so composed through trials. They might think you're unaffected or emotionally detached, but in reality you are deeply connected not to the world but to the one who made it. And through that connection you find a strength that rises above hardship and a tranquility that is untouched by chaos. This is the kind of strength that kept the prophets and righteous before us firm in their missions even when they were rejected, ridiculed, or persecuted. When Allah is enough for you, you begin to see your problems differently. You stop asking, why me? And begin to say, Ya Allah, guide me through this. You no longer see your challenges as punishments, but as opportunities for growth, for purification, for elevation in the sight of your Lord. Your heart softens in gratitude, your mind sharpens in clarity, and your soul begins to taste the sweetness of submission. This is the power of trusting in Allah, a power that no money, status, or relationship can give you. Letting Allah be enough for you is not just a belief. It is a way of life. It is reflected in your actions, in your choices, in your speech, and most importantly, in your inner peace. When the world becomes loud and uncertain, your heart remains firm, quietly saying, my Rabb is with me. This is not weakness, it is the greatest strength a human being can have. To stand with Allah and to walk through life with Him as your guide, your protector, your provider, and your source of peace.